The spirit conjures snakes and studies the infinite balance of light and dark. He welcomes the viewer toward him with open arms, inviting them to look into the infinite abyss and the infinite light. The spirit's face contains two eyes from two separate faces, echoing the two floating snakes and the two ends of the light spectrum before him. Its face is pale blue, yet a warm-toned shadow of a cross falls upon the side of its face. A uniform white outline places the figure squarely into a vast yellow void. The spirit is calm, open, and thoughtful. The city is an inhospitable and lonely place. Among millions, you can be isolated and alone all the time. I find myself threatened, screamed at, and nearly run over, yet I return on a regular basis to yield some sort of opportunity or positive outcome. Is it my attitude, my face, or perhaps the way I walk? I try to smile at people before they notice me, and that seems to help. The figure in this piece is beat up, as exemplified by the open cuts on the left side of his face. A single tear falls from his eye and half of his hair is going gray. His head is connecting to a skeleton torso with a leather cross necklace hanging in front of his sternum. Two rats examine his bones, while subway ticket sits in his other arm. A fiery yellow haze illuminates the room behind him. This man has stared into the infinite abyss and lost his eye in the process. He is a practitioner of the dark arts. He can speak to snakes and talk to spirits. He asks the viewer to consider the infinite darkness found in the abyss and wonder how it can complement your vision of the light. The method for this painting includes both illustrative techniques and 3D drawing techniques. Spiritual work often happens on multiple different planes. Some believe it's something in the air or in your soul, while others believe the spiritual work is reflected in physical activities such as exercise, meditation, or writing. The presence of both the illustrative aesthetic and the realistic represent the coexistence of material and immaterial spiritual practices of any given individual. Is this a demon with a man's face or a man in a demon's costume? The stark look and the cold gradients in his skin make the red background pop. His eyes connect to the rest of the image through their shared hue with the canvas. Normally a devil is seen with red horns or a red costume, but in this image we are given its complementary counterpart, green. In this painting, the green devil asks you to consider the opposites in the world and the way contrast creates balance rather than division, just like the red in the back balances perfectly with the green of his suit. The green devil is both a demon with a man's face and a man dressed up as a demon. A face is normally constructed of two eyes, a mouth, and a nose. We expect it to be uniform, conventional, and predictable. The archetypal face in an artwork is often an allegory or symbol for a human emotion, a personal concept, or a living person. This may be expressed through color, form, or facial expression. In my Fractured Identity series, I put together faces using a collection of inharmonious parts. Eyes that don't match, conflicting expressions, and nonsensical colors are all metaphoric expressions of the fractured identity. This manifests in real life as depressive behavior, loneliness, or loss of purpose. Not knowing yourself or who you truly are leads to unhappiness and chaos in one's life. In another reading, the fractured identity paintings can represent the many facets of the human psyche. 3 souls land in the spiritual plane with no memory of their lives before. With no anchor to the past or the power of a corporeal form, they are at the will of the demons that roam the land. Many demons use them as their avatars, watch them with fascination, or collect them to parade them about the spiritual planes as companions, playthings, and thralls. One motif included are the stone structures behind the demon. They are meant to symbolize the permanence and strength of the spiritual plane. They symbolize the infinite and unmoving. The ancient stone structures are a fixture of the afterlife and incorporeal plane. The corrupt priest stares shamelessly at the viewer as he drinks the blood of the Spirit of God, as noted by his halo and crucifixion wounds. He is a charlatan, a fraud, and a killer. He assumed the role of the divine, the truthful, and the powerful, only to use his position to feed his own sick whims and desires. Goats dance in the shadows behind him, while his followers dance on the other side. A monkey sits atop his shoulder to symbolize the inhumanity of the priest's actions. Snakes swirl about, and a rosary ring sits on his finger to symbolize the contradiction, deception, and duplicity brought on by the corrupt priest. A girl sits cross-legged on the floor with her eyes popping out of her head and her tongue and teeth coming out of the bottom of her jaw. Her arms are lifted up and pointing down in a playful pose. She has dyed her hair blue and tied it up into space buns. She is silly, strange, and irreverent, beckoning the viewer to join her in this play. Should you remain serious and go about your day, or embody some of the mischief, curiosity, and amusement presented by this figure? In an alternate reading, this piece also fits into the Fractured Identity series. Her eyes leave their sockets, her teeth and tongue are outside of her mouth, and the composition forces the viewer to oscillate between multiple focal points. A strange creature sits casually on the ground. He looks tired, worn, and apathetic. This creature has seen alternate dimensions, traveled through the annals of time, and frolicked with creatures beyond our comprehension. Now he sits bored and waiting for the next adventure. This piece is painted in open acrylics and regular acrylics, done in repeated layers. After each painting session, the layer is allowed to dry. I then use mixed media materials like wax pigment sticks or water-based oil pastels to add texture and more tone. Once that layer is completed, I begin painting with acrylics again. I repeat this rotation 3 to 4 times before the painting is complete. An elf kickflips over a cement egg while his friend follows behind, camera in hand. The two ride on planks of compressed maple on ground made from natural stone, echoing the woodland landscape seen on the horizon. The sun sets beyond the trees with a cold night following behind it. The skateboarders may remain in this park, even though they can no longer skate. Maybe they will have some drinks, share a cigarette, and play back some of the footage they took earlier in the day. This piece celebrates the friendship, camaraderie, and group expression that comes with skateboarding. The clown kneels armed and ready for any form of attack. He brandishes a firearm and looks around the room. His eyes are bloodshot and tired. His hands are on his hip, resting and out of breath. After constant threat and danger, the clown remains resilient, strong, and ready. This piece symbolizes a commitment to one's identity and maintaining composure and strength despite outside threats. The horned clown is tired, frustrated, and sad, yet he is strong, unyielding, and prepared. I look at my face and I see a dysmorphed, strange version of the person my loved ones see. I try to see the beauty or resemblance to my family, but I cannot. I cannot rely solely on visual cues to decide what represents me, so instead I focus on objects and actions. If I cannot see myself in a mirror, perhaps I can see myself in words, in laughter, or a set of actions I set into motion. It's a difficult thing to change the way you see yourself in a literal sense. I find it easier to find myself in alternate places. The Madonna stares blankly back at the viewer, wearing a golden crown. An ancient mountain sits in the field behind her, eroded by millions of years of weather and wind. She holds an urn in one hand and her child in the other. A snake crawls up her arm, but she does not care. The urn carries the ashes of the father of her child. The child bears the same color as the moon and the snake, as he too carries the potential for danger, damage, and the dawn. His pointed hat extends into the sky and reaches behind a cloud floating far away in the distance, placing this newborn child strongly into the present, far away into the future, and anchored strongly in the past. The broken figure stands as a bust and a stick figure at the same time. His eyes are crossed out, and his mouth is stretched and out of place. He has been battered by stress, trauma, and the chaos of his life. There's no way out of the disaster and no way to make sense of it while within. His spiritual form becomes dilapidated and broken, while his body rapidly changes form. This figure has slipped into a black hole of trouble. Like debt building on debt, he is punished for his misfortune, the symptoms of which is misery added on to the already existing misery. It keeps going like a bottomless pit. What could pull him out? Newfound strength? Prayer? Medicine? Maybe systemic change. The child of the he-goat is a devious and playful figure. He is loud, unafraid, and powerful, not yet subdued by the discipline of his stern and demonic father. There is youth in his eyes and curiosity for the mysteries around him. He runs unfazed by the threats of retribution and enjoys the chaos that follows his play. The piece is painted in both expressive swaths of paint and delicate tactical brushwork. On one side is a conventional human ear, while on the other side features the protruding ear and eye of a goat, as noted by its rectangular pupil. The figure has only the suggestion of a nose, yet bears a vividly painted smile with shining black lips. The star in the black void is the patron saint of all who are alone. The star moves slowly through the great nothing. Its light is soft and close to its core. It exists in between dimensions in a formless dark space with spiritual tethers connecting to all in the universe who feel alone or lost. The star powers them and tries to convert their isolation into tranquil solitude. It sends its power to all who look upon it from the deep, dark void. The young boy runs, laughs, and plays, fascinated by his imagination and all of the strange things he dreams up. He talks about monsters, mummies, spiders, and snakes. He talks about vampires, pirate ships, skeletons, and devils. He's excited by all of this and more. He tells it all to his grandmother, who listens with patience, excitement, and kindness. She doesn't make the young boy feel weird or ignored. She listens, laughs, and loves him. Unlike the other paintings, this piece is painted in gouache and took 2 years to complete. It's also directly inspired by my own experience with my grandmother. As a child, both of my parents had to work full-time, but we were fortunate enough to have my grandmother available to watch me and all of my siblings. The fawn sleeps peacefully in the grass while he is stalked by the hunter floating above him. The fawn gets too close to the land occupied by the man, and he may soon meet a terrible fate. Should the fawn have stayed in the forest? Should he have stayed far away from his human counterpart? This creature had every right to live freely in his natural environment, but now unaware of the threat of the Anthropocene, he may soon meet an ill fate, undeserved and incomprehensible to him. In some readings, this fawn represents the child within us all being sacrificed for the person we later become. The hunter represents the crushing imposition of reality and heartache brought on by the rest of the world. The art of doing makeup is subtle, inventive, and difficult. It calls for technical skill as well as artistic intuition. Those who are perplexed by the hours of work that go into a full face of makeup clearly do not understand the expression, artistry, and power that comes from this visual language, this skill, and this art. In this image, the model stares intently into the mirror with an eyebrow pencil in hand, making their face look exactly as they want it to look. The skate park is a place of duality, containing tranquility and chaos. It's a place where people from all walks of life meet and express themselves. This includes OG skaters, scooter kids, graffiti writers, roller skaters, crazy people, friends, random spectators, and those just hanging around. It's an unpredictable environment where people can achieve athletic excellence, practice their tricks, or they can gravely injure themselves. They can meet the best friends they've ever had, or run into people they wished they'd never met. There is often music, horseplay, and camaraderie, as well as noise, conflict, and loneliness. This painting is an allegoric representation of the love, chaos, and community and debauchery that happens in the skate park, a home for unpredictable energy.